Hey guys, welcome to a wee bit of a sit and chat. I would have had a game up for you, but just struggling with work and trying to find opponents at the moment is proving very difficult. So I thought I'd talk about a couple of things. And one of them is that, pardon me, sorry, a couple of things that come up all the time in my little group anyway. And the first one, I suppose I'll outline them first. The first two things that come up a lot with people that I play, and the first thing is recasting, like the ethics, right or wrong, should you be buying recasts and things like that. And then secondly, it's sort of the effect that metagaming has on our hobby, if you like. So the effect that tournament players have on the hobby. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is recasting, because I was talking about this a couple of times over more than that, about 3 times over the past couple of weeks. Coffee. And the rights and wrongs of it. So I have no problem with playing someone. Sorry, take off my. Playing someone who has recast models. I'm just going to adjust my light, it's a bit in the way. I can't quite reach it. Let's move that more like that. And that should be a little bit better. Yeah, that's a bit better. Yeah, so I have no problem playing anyone who has recast models, basically. I don't really care if they tell me that their models are recast or not. I mean, I've been in the hobby long enough that I can tell recasts pretty quickly when you just pick them up and look at them. I'm not gonna lie, back in the day when I was a student, or like when I had my first job out of university, I used recasters, and I don't feel bad about it. It's just, you look at the cost of the hobby. I mean, Forge World could stamp out recasting really, really easily. I've had this discussion with so many people before. And in my mind, I mean, if you take, for instance, what have I got anything kicking about? Right, oh yeah, here we go. Take that guy, for instance, this is Karen. I don't know how much it is on Forge World at the moment. It's like, say 75 quid or something like that. I didn't buy this one from Forge World. It is genuine. I bought it from a friend because he wanted rid of it, so it cost me 50 quid. You know, and I think £50 is reasonable. But this Sakarin, I was digging about. Where are we now? How much? I've got on the other screen, I've got a recaster's catalog. Where are we now? It's Karen's. It's an Excel sheet, guys. So it's a bit hard to find things because it's not laid out particularly well. Pardon me. So it's a Karen. Right. Okay. So find it. I can get rid of that now. So this thing from a recaster, I'm not going to tell you who it is. So I think it's like, what, 75 quid or something from Forge World, which I suppose isn't too bad, really. I mean, I paid 50 for mine because I got it secondhand. But you can buy this from the recaster that I looked up today for $45, which is about, say, £30, £28, something like that at the moment. £28 versus 75. Now, big saving you might say, but the thing with buying something from Forge World, and even buying like stuff on Heresy Trading and things like that, what you lose by buying things secondhand and by buying things from recasters is you lose the right to moan about the quality. You lose the right to phone up Forge World or whoever, who 90% of the time, I'm not going to say 100% of the time because I've had bad experiences with Forge World, where I've had like really shit casts and they've just refused to do anything about it. And you know, that's people. You can't do anything about people. You email the wrong person, you talk to the wrong person, and they're just kind of like, no, that's the way it should arrive. But 90% of the time, Forge World will fix your issue really quickly. Whereas if you're buying recasts, say a recast something like this, you know, because this is cast with these two sides as whole pieces, you know, if all the tracks are mashed on one side, I would just phone up Forge World and say, hey dude, like, this isn't good enough. I can send you a photo. And they're probably just going to send me the entire hull again. That's generally what they'll do. Whereas if you get that from a recaster, you can't really moan about it. Now, equally, I have had, in fact, I still have, I don't have it in the room, but I'm still running recast models. I've got a Spartan that I bought a long time ago that's recast, and it had that problem, that one whole side of it was completely fucked. The tracks were completely fucked. They were just mashed. I didn't mind because that Spartan cost me £25, and I spent an evening rebuilding the tracks with Milliput. I don't mind. If you've got the skill set to do that, that's fine. And pretty much now that it's built and it's weathered and everything else, and I've used it for years, like, people really struggle to spot that it's a recast. There are some obvious things about it. If you pick it up and look really closely, like at the quad las cannons or something like that, then it's so obvious it's a recast. But you know, at table length, it's hard to tell. And as far as I'm concerned, that is, for me, that's it with recasting. I mean, that you accept that. If you're willing to accept that what you buy you have no real control over in terms of quality, and the materials used and how it's manufactured, whether or not people are being paid fairly, the hours they're working, things like that. If you don't care about things like that, and you're quite happy to just send your money generally to either Russia or China, then by all means do it. I have no problem with it. If Forge World had a real problem with it, they would be actively seeking criminal damages against these people. I work in an industry, I work in the biomedical industry, and the company I work for, I mean, it's completely different because the company I work for has like a $2.5 billion turnover a year, compared to Forge World's like, it's probably not even 100 million. I don't know what they turned over like. It's tiny. They're not a very big company. Well, Games Workshop, I should say, not Forge World. In the grand scheme of things, they're not a big firm. But my company, we treat copyright theft, and we treat IP theft and counterfeiting, you know, very, very seriously, to the point that we've worked with agencies in America like the FBI and other European agencies to take these people down, and we've sent teams to different countries like China, India, etc. To actively investigate this. I don't see Forge World or Games Workshop doing that. I see a lot of rhetoric when they talk about it. They're more likely to come down on someone like me if I started using some of their images. You know, they're more likely to send someone like me a letter than to get on a plane and go to China, as far as I'm aware, and actually close down these factories. Now, Forge World could stop counterfeiting very easily. They're not going to eradicate it. There's always going to be people who are willing to pay a bit less. But if Forge World, like for me, for instance, a Spartan's like £110, that's a massive investment, even for someone like me, who's, you know, I'm nearly, how old am I? Late 30s. You know, I've got a good job. I can afford, I've got a kid, and I can still afford to buy toys, basically, and paint them and play with them. You know, I've got money, I can pay for things. But I'm not gonna lie, when I say when I order a Spartan or something, it stings. It's £110, you know, and you don't know what you're gonna get. You know, equally, I bought Altharius not long ago. 70 odd quid for that little dude. Do you know what I mean? It's like, this is the same price as this, which is bonkers. Because Forge World always talk about the main cost driver being the amount of resin. I don't really buy the whole, in terms of their pricing, I don't buy the argument about tooling and molding, because you know my company, we make soft tools and hard tools all the time. It's the cost of doing business. If you want to manufacture something, you have to do it. It's that simple. Anyway, that by the by. So Forge World, in my opinion, they could make it economically unviable for recasters if they simply lowered their prices. And I'm not talking halving their price. I'm saying, you know, like, the thought of buying a Spartan, for example, for £110 for me is a serious, am I going to do that? If a Spartan costs 80 or 90 quid, if it was under £100, then the pain almost disappears. It doesn't disappear completely, but it's almost the thought of that purchase becomes slightly different because it's less than £100. And I think if they lowered their prices across the board, for what is essentially a niche product, it would almost get rid of recasters. I mean, I think it just wouldn't be economically viable for recasters. If you're living in Britain and the EU and things where the cost of miniatures is not ridiculous because of the transit cost. I mean, I think looking at markets like the Pacific Asia market with Australia and New Zealand, there's always going to be a recasting problem there. It's literally that simple. If I lived in New Zealand or Australia, I certainly would not be paying the ridiculous prices that, let alone for Forge World, but just for Games Workshop miniatures, I would quite happily buy recast models. Because those guys are getting absolutely shafted. Completely shafted as far as I'm concerned. So that's number one. That's recasting out of the way. That's how I feel about recasting. I don't have a massive problem with it. It's literally that simple. Games Workshop as an entity exists to remove money out of your bank account, and that's it. That's literally it. Yes, I think the engagement the company's had in the past couple of years has been fantastic. But ultimately, most businesses do that. They engage with their buying base, you know, because they want to understand who's buying their products so they can sell more products to you. That's literally the limit of their interest in us. Call me a skeptic, whatever. I work for a business that is in the business of making money, and you know, we do it through the medium of, you know, healthcare essentially, and that we care about your health. What we care about is getting your money, and most businesses are like that, and there's no problem with that. The other problem that Games Workshop have is that they are a publicly owned company, so they have shareholders and they have to meet commitments to shareholders. So I see the difficulty that they have in lowering prices for Forge World, but for me that's the only way they're really going to deal with recasting, because like I say, I haven't really seen any real drive from their side to actually actively end recasting. You can send letters to people, you can do whatever you like, but the reality is you send a letter to some guy in China, they're just going to ignore it because they're making money. And people, you know, people are still there. The demand is there. If the demand's there, people are going to recast miniatures. For instance, I can't remember the name of the firm. There is a company in Poland who recast stuff, but they do it legally, so they wait for the IP to lapse on certain model lines and casts, and then they'll recast them. And Games Workshop don't have a problem with that. So it is literally just the stuff that's actively being sold that is an issue for them. So that's it. Recasting done. Hate it or love it. I'm kind of indifferent to it. Is it killing the hobby? No, it's not killing the hobby, because Games Workshop have just had the best 2 financial years they've ever had. So yeah, and people haven't stopped making recasts, so I can't see that happening. Now on to the second thing, sort of metagaming or tournament gaming. I think if you've watched any of my battle reports, you probably get the impression that I'm not into tournament play. I'm not into hardcore smashing people play. It's just not my 40k or 30k. When I was younger, I went to tournaments. I was really into tournaments. I didn't bring meta lists, as it were. I always tried to bring a list that would beat the current meta, or that would make people think. Unusual units, moving about the board, using, using terrain, etc., etc. Anyway, I don't do that anymore. Mainly because I've had a couple of really bad experiences, and then generally just the level of kind of win at all costs, which for me, the thought of spending, I mean, to go to an event, I mean, let's not be, it's probably like 400 quid to go to a weekend event. By the time you go away, you pay for somewhere to stay, food, accommodation, the price of the event itself, and when you're at events, you generally buy models or other stuff as well. And then for me to spend that much money and then to have like 3 or 4 games against people who are literally willing to do anything to win, and are, you know, you've got to wonder, like, are you enjoying yourself? And I don't enjoy that. I have no problem with people who want to do that. That if that's your 40k, if that's your hobby, that's fine. I've just lost interest in that side of things. I mean, it's largely meaningless to me. Like, if I was to be named the best whatever player in the world, it doesn't really mean anything. It just means that I'm really good at playing this game that, again, has no larger meaning in the world other than my enjoyment of it. But what I do have a problem with is the disproportionate effect that tournament players have on the hobby in terms of rules, in terms of Games Workshop's attention. And I get it. It is very easy for Games Workshop to go to things like the LVO, Adepticon, etc., etc. But I think what they need to realize is that although there's a lot of people at these events, is a very small slice of their demographic. I mean, out of my group of playing friends, I can think of maybe there's 2 of them that go to ITC events and ETC events. And the rest of us either don't go to events or we go to narrative events. Like, for instance, I go to Horus Heresy narrative events because I know I'm not going to turn up and get blown off the table. I know I'm going to have a weekend of enjoyable games, games that build on the results of all the other games, and it's relaxed, and it's thematic. And for me, that's what it's about. It's, you know, I spend a lot of time painting and trying to make models look nice, and I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I've read pretty much all the Horus Heresy novels. I've been in the hobby for a long time, guys. I remember Rogue Trader. I remember 2nd edition 40k was the big thing for me when I got into it. Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, I remember playing the 1st edition of that. You know, so for me, it's more the story and the narrative and the setting that drives my want to play the game. So, yeah, it's just not a big thing for me. But I do think that the effect that tournament players have on the hobby is just disproportionately large. I think Games Workshop would be better served by possibly polling people. Have an online poll. You're probably not going to get, you're going to get, again, a lot of tournament players replying to that poll, but you're also going to get your average Joe Blogs like me, who gave up tournament playing a long time ago, is not interested in tournament playing. I find it interesting, don't get me wrong, like, I like reading about it. I find not so much everyone, but the good players, the kind of top 8 players, are interesting. I find what they've built interesting. Do I want to be that guy and do that and spend that amount of time? No, I don't. Not really. I want to read my book and go, oh my god, that's amazing. I'm gonna build a 3,000 to 4,000 point heresy army or whatever based around this narrative or this time period in the heresy or within 40k lore, because I think it's cool. Like, for instance, I've still got tons of drop pods, and I use drop pods in 40k, but I can't remember the last time I saw a drop pod on YouTube. Because they're just, I get it, they're just not worth it. They're points wise, they're not worth it. They do nothing for your efficiency. But should the game really be about that? I mean, not completely. And I feel that Games Workshop give way too much credence to what I would deem as tournament play, than just to their normal everyday punters like me who just want to play the game. You know, they just enjoy the game. They enjoy the setting. They're not, I'm not interested in smashing people off the table at all. If I have a game, like I played a game of Heresy at the start of the year. We had a little weekend thing with a few friends, and I smashed them. I smashed some guy, and I felt really bad. I was just like, I was really sorry. And then at the end of the game, we talked about it, and I said, you know, what would really benefit you is, you know, you get an apothecary, get this, get that. You know, you, because I was just going through. I didn't have a strong list. I mean, that's the thing. I didn't take a particularly horrible list. I could have taken a lot worse stuff. I just took something that I felt was thematic and in keeping with the aesthetic of the word bearers. And I did get lucky. You know, I did get lucky. I popped his Sakara in the first turn, popped his Dreadnoughts turn 2. You know, but beyond that, I didn't think like, yes, I've done it. And then equally, the game before that, I was playing against a guy who had just all knights. I'd never played knights before. I had very little anti-armor. I had a heavy weapon squad, which got templated off the table in turn 1. But I only lost by like 2 points. So, did I feel bad about that? No, I learned a lot. But that, to me, that's more interesting than going to an event and literally just taking the filthiest thing you can that has no real, it doesn't hang together narratively, it doesn't look like a narrative army. Like, you know, the thought, like, I could never go to an event with an army that is basically 3 colors. That would just never happen for me, that because that's not an army. It's like, you know, 3 colors, are you kidding me? I mean, but again, that's a tournament player mentality maybe, and I'm not saying that all tournament players do that. I've seen some absolutely amazing armies. The photographs from some of the stuff at the LVO, the Prague Open, etc. They're just fantastic. Equally, I've seen some absolutely just like literally it is just 3 colors. And for people like that, that's great, but their hobby is very different to mine. So I'm just interested in what you guys think. I mean, are you particularly maybe interested isn't the right word. Are you driven by the meta? I mean, would you go to your local gaming club with a net list and just smash someone just to win? I mean, you can do that. You're probably not going to have games for very long because people will just start to avoid you. So I'm kind of more interested in what you guys think about tournament play and the effect it's having on the hobby, right or wrong, and also like recasting. Like, I know a lot of people that have very strong opinions on it, like one way or the other. I'm kind of in the middle where I'm just like, if you want to use recast models, I don't mind. You know, I'm honest enough to say that I have and I still have recast models that I use today because they look really good, and I'm just like, Christ, why would I, for instance, why would I bin this Spartan and spend £110 to get another one? You know, this one looks fine, and I spent a lot of time painting it, and I think it looks really, really good. So that's it, guys. I mean, I don't really have a lot else to say other than that. I hope to have a game up next Saturday or Friday. Like I say, I've just kind of been really busy at work, and other people have had other things on, so it's been hard to try and get a game sorted out. And the video for painting these guys is coming along nicely, so I'll grab one. I'm kind of halfway through. It just takes a long time, so I'm kind of doing the video while I'm painting 30 Space Marines, and it just takes a while to go grind them because you've got to do it in stages. So we're kind of getting there. Nearly done the armor now. That's kind of the first coat of bluey green. I actually need to go over it again before I move on to the upper highlights, as it were. I can see a spot I've missed right there on the shoulder pad, actually. But yeah, doing that kind of stuff just takes time, guys. Eventually, 30 of them will look like this. That kind of nice sort of blue bottle green. I know it's not the traditional Alpha Legion sort of metallic blue, but I kind of made this color by mistake almost, and I really like it, and I stuck with it. I tried it on the Sakaran when I bought it off my mate Adam, and I really like it on the Sakaran. I think it looks sweet. with a bit of battle damage as well. Waiting for the transfers to come to finish this off. But yeah, that's what I think, guys. Those are my views on the hobby, just so you know. So from now on, you should know what to expect from me. Thanks for tuning in if you tuned in. Thanks for watching this if you watch it in the future. But I would love to hear your comments on like a recasting, right or wrong, or whether you're like me and you're kind of indifferent to it. That's my dog. And also about the effect. About the effect that tournament play has on the game. Like I say, I think it's... I'm not going to say it's a bad effect. I'm just going to say it has a disproportionately large effect on the hobby in general, considering the amount of tournament players there are within the demographic of people that play 40k, Age of Sigmar, whatever it is you play. You know, right or wrong. I don't mind. I just think it has a massive effect on the game, and I'd actually be like to be asked my opinion. So I don't know. Anyway, guys, that's it. Thank you very much, like I said, for tuning in. Thanks for giving me some more support. The channel is a draining thing. I think people realize how much time it takes to set up, film, edit, and then you got to keep your own kind of hobby going. Because, you know, obviously I don't want to field the same army all the time for you guys, so it's just a lot of work. So stick with me, and I'll try and get things a bit more organized in the future. But like I say, just sometimes real life takes over, guys. Anyway, thanks a lot, and happy wargaming.